Yo, what's up everyone? Back for this Thursday slate. We're going to look at the early slate today. Before we get started, you can drop a like and subscribe down below. Yesterday was a good day. Cashed on both slates for Draftkings and double ups. The early slate went with Sales, Samardzija, same picks I gave out. Didi, Alberto, Bellinger, and Judge. The core six was solid, especially in cash, as a lot of people went James Paxton, and he had a -3, so Samardzija was definitely the better route. Cashed on the early slate on DraftKings, and then the main slate was low scoring as well, but made out in all the single entry double ups, even the regular double ups too. So double up on that, and FanDuel cashed in GPPs as well. We scored over 140, I think, on FanDuel. So looking to keep it going today. We have two more slates today, and today I will be out of my house for most of the day, so I will be posting the lineups pretty early on the site. And if you do want to get the MLB today, just send me a DM on Twitter, and I'll send you a screenshot just because I won't be able to give you site access if you purchase during the day, or I will send you an email if you don't have Twitter or anything. But you can check out the website, dosprocess.net. Let's try to get over 100 likes on this video, and we still have spots left for the NFL Early Bird Special. It's only $75. You can check that out as well. So let's start it off at pitcher today. We have a nice early slate. It's kind of a chiller slate. Like yesterday, we had a couple bigger slates. This slate is just a 6-game early slate, and then the main slate's only 4 games, so very manageable. First guy I like is Aaron Nola. He's at 10-7. Definitely play him. He has the most upside, I think, out of any starting pitcher on this slate. Peacock has a lot of upside, but against the Pirates, I don't like the strikeout matchup. And Zach Wheeler, I think he has upside, but I'd rather pay a little bit more. You're only paying $700 more for Nola, who is the much better pitcher than Wheeler. This year, he's gone off to a rocky start. He's been up and down for most of it, but he's been good at home for this season, and most of his career has been pretty good at home. The Mets are not a great offense. They strike out a decent amount. Nola has just been really good in a couple starts. Like, he has 35-point upside, 30 to 35-point upside, and the Phillies are favored here. I'll definitely take a chance on him at my first pitcher. And the second pitcher I'm going to go with is going to be, it's kind of tough down here to pair with him. There's don't have like an option that's staring you right in the face. I mean, I think people might go to Musgrove here against the Astros, but that's a pretty scary matchup now that the Astros are healthier with Springer back. Anderson might get some love, but the way the Mariners are swinging the bats, that's not an easy matchup for him, and he hasn't been great at all. He has last couple starts, he's gotten you under 6 DraftKings points. He's a little risky. I think I kind of like Martin Perez here. He's at $7,900. He has shown some good strikeout upside this season, and much better than what he's used to. The Rays have one of the highest strikeout rates in the league, if not the highest strikeout rate. I'll have to check the numbers again, but they strike out an absolute ton against left-handed pitching. Martin Perez has some decent strikeout stuff, like I said, and at home he's been much better in Minnesota. And the Rays, their better hitters are lefties, like Brandon Lau's a lefty, Austin Meadows is a lefty, and Meadows is in a big-time slump right now, so those are a couple bats that he can negate, as he is pretty good against fellow lefties. And the righties that are in the lineup, some of them do have power, but I think overall the lineup isn't as scary facing a lefty. And Perez, as long as he can get me double digits, I'll be happy with that. I think he can push it close to 20, and we know he does have some upside here. I don't mind going with him. This pairing leaves you with about 4,000 left for your bats, which I kind of like. Today at first base, quite a bit of options I like. I think Freeman is pretty in a nice spot against Chatwood. He's the most expensive option, though. If you go looking a little cheaper, I don't mind like Vogelbach here against Anderson. I really love Rizzo here, though. He's at 4,600 facing Wilson. We know what Rizzo does against right-handed pitching. He mashes right-handed pitching. The wind might be blown out a little bit. It's not going to be as extreme here, but it might be, enough to add a little bit of extra runs on the board. Rizzo is just so good. His batting average overall doesn't look outstanding just because he plays against lefties every game. But if he didn't play against lefties, his batting average would be like 294. That's what his batting against righties. 16 home runs. He's been great at home this year. He has a 280 ISO, a 5.75 slugging percentage, only a 14% K rate. And Wilson, it's a very small sample size for him, but has not been very good. Bryce Wilson has not been very good in the major leagues, and in the minor leagues, he wasn't like a shutdown pitcher. He had like a above 3 point, I think 3.4, 3.5 ERA. averaging a little less than a strikeout per inning. It's a really small sample size that we're dealing with here. It's only like a 22 and 30 batter sample size, but lefties and righties have hit him pretty well. And I do really like Rizzo here in the spot. And in the limited sample size, lefties have the way higher xFIP at 8.22. So going with a guy like Rizzo here, I think makes a ton of sense. He's also very affordable here. Next up at third base, I really like Travis Shaw here. Looking for a little value here. He supplies that value. The Brewers have one of the higher totals on the slate. Travis Shaw has not been good at all this season, but 2,700 for a lefty at home in Miller Park facing a pitcher that gives up quite a bit of power and quite a bit of home runs. I think Travis Shaw makes for a nice cheap option here at third base on a slate that we don't have a ton of value sticking out. This season, he's been bad against both sides, but at least he's shown some power against righties with 6 home runs and almost a 200 average, which is nothing to be excited about. But career-wise, he does have some power, and I think that power will come back. Last season, he was great for the Brewers, and he's still fairly young at just 29 years old. This decline shouldn't be this steep. Last season, he hit 32 home runs, and 30 of which came against righties. And he had a 285 ISO last season against righties. And Mike Leake, I believe, has been pretty similar numbers given up to both sides of the plate. He's not a big-time strikeout pitcher, which is a good sign for a guy like Shaw that strikes out an absolute ton. This season, lefties are hitting 278, righties are hitting 274. Pretty same numbers, kind of. Lefties have a 19% K rate. So it's a little better numbers for righties. That's what I kind of assume, that Leake does give us some more home runs against righties. See if the career numbers are any different. There's a little bit of difference in favor of the lefties. Either way, I think Travis Shaw is a little too cheap here at 2,700 given the matchup. Let's move on to the outfield. In the outfield, I like $4,400 for Michael Brantley. I like that quite a bit. I like the Astros a lot, especially the lefties against Musgrove. The lefties have kind of hammered Musgrove. He's been much worse against lefties this season, and he strikes them out way less. For facing a guy like Brantley, he just doesn't strike out much in general against righties, as it will show you. I think he can get to Musgrove. He hits right in the heart of the lineup, and now that the lineup is healthy, he is going to have a ton of RBI opportunities hitting like 4th or 5th. This season, Musgrove has given up a 292 average and a 503 slugging to lefties, and he just has a 14.8% K rate to lefties this season. So both numbers are pretty bad, and Brantley is much better against he's been good to both sides of the plate this season, but in terms of power, he has a little more power way more power against right-handed pitching. At home, I think they can do some damage here against Musgrove, especially the lefties. So this season, Brantley has a 206 ISO against right-handed pitching with a 514 slugging percentage, only has a 7.6% strikeout rate, and those numbers are really good, and he does hit the ball fairly hard with only a 13.4 soft contact rate and hitting the ball a little more in the air against righties. I like Brantley a lot as well, in addition to the other lefties with the Astros, like Alvarez, I like him. And if you need a little cheaper than Brantley, you can go to Alvarez. And last but not least, I don't know why Kyle Schwarber is so cheap on a daily basis, but it's getting ridiculous now. $3,600 for a leadoff hitter at home in Wrigley, facing a pitcher that hasn't been fared well in the major leagues in Wilson. Even though he's priced up today, that makes no sense. But we know Schwarber has massive amounts of power. She'll get a ton of at-bats here. She'll get a ton of opportunities to put runners across the plate, to score runs for himself. I'm expecting the Cubs to put up some runs today. And Schwarber, we know he has a ton of power against right-handed pitching career-wise. He has a pretty solid 263 ISO. Pretty impressive there. 501 slugging percentage. Just way too cheap at only $3,600 facing Wilson here. So those are some plays I like for this early slate. Now I'll go ahead and talk about some other picks. So if you enjoyed these 6 players, be sure to drop a like on the video. And some of the other stacks that I like, I think the Phillies will go a little overlooked just because they're facing Wheeler. I don't have a ton of interest in it. I do have a little bit of interest in them just because they're very cheap, and Wheeler does give us some power. So Bryce Harper's too cheap at 4,100. I like a Harper, Bruce, Segura's red hot, Hoskins. I like a mini stack of those four. On the Tigers are facing Guardo, a guy that doesn't get many swinging strikes, and the Tigers are dirt cheap. So if you're going to be paying up at pitching, paying up for both pitching spots, the Tigers are an offense you will look to for some cheap plays like Castellanos, Goodrum at 37, Stewart at 32. If you need a cheap first baseman, Miguel Cabrera can supply that at 3,200. And yeah, those are some cheap options, and then obviously the catcher is always cheap there. The Twins, I don't have much interest in them. They're dealing with some injuries. We'll see. That's going to affect how the stack looks and how, if there's some value plays that we can attack with Rosario and Kepler banged up. You can definitely look at that. So we'll have to see how the lineup looks for that. The Brewers, I like them quite a bit. I like everybody that has power. I like the lefties, the righties, Yelich. Braun, I will still play him even in a righty-righty matchup. Travis Shaw, I like him quite a bit. He's at that price tag. Eric Thames, lots of power with him, and Moustakas. They make for a really good stack whenever they're at home facing a righty. I have quite a bit of interest in the Brewers. On the Astros, main interest starts with the lefties against Musgrove, and then I'll look at some righties like Altuve, who's too cheap, but Reddick, Alvarez, Brantley are my top three targets, and then I'll go to guys like Gurriel, who's still cheap, and Altuve, who's still way too cheap. On the Cubs, lots of interest in the Cubs. I like Hayward at 36. I love Schwarber at 36. I like Baez. I like Rizzo. On the Braves, I have interest in them as well. Markakis at 37. I like Acuna. Donaldson at 45. And Freeman. Like my top four plays from the Braves. And that takes us to the end of the video. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around if you watched the whole thing. Drop a like if you enjoyed. You can visit the website. And good luck today.